The following is a conversation with Angelo Gargaro. He is the director of the Office of Student Conduct at Point Park University, as well as the creator and host of the Spinning Thoughts Music podcast. We sat down to talk with him about mental health, pop culture, politics, leadership, and more. This is the Not Just Politics podcast. To find us on social media, click through the links in the description. Enjoy!
And we're live. How you been, man?
Hey, good. It's good to see you.
Nice to see you, too.
In the studio for the first time together.
I know. That's pretty cool.
It is. It's nice. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah.
It's been cool connecting with you recently over some stuff. And I'm looking forward to taking your podcasting class.
Yeah. Are you going to be taking it in the spring?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool.
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah, I'm switching over to broadcast production.
Nice.
So,
and you don't even any student can take it. You don't have to be in the School of Comm or even in the sports communication program. It can be for anybody. It can be an elective. So
yeah,
spread the word. Definitely join. It's a good time.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah, we're looking to build off of that and even create an extension to that course to do like another course maybe that dives into the podcast production a little bit more.
That's awesome. I would be super interested in that as well, I think.
Yeah, and I don't want to control the conversation, but, President Don Green here at Point Park, he's looking to start a podcast.
We heard about this. Bernie told us.
Yeah.
Professor Ankney told us.
And your name was actually brought up as somebody to maybe help with it, so I'd like to talk to you off the air about that. But An idea that I have is to actually create a course that the entirety of the course is dedicated to producing this presidential podcast.
Whoa, that would be cool.
Yeah, so that's the vision. We'll see if it's going to happen. We're working on it, but pretty excited.
Who's he thinking of talking to with that?
So President Green, his big initiative right now, and he has many of them. He wants to try to do a lot of high school outreach to create a pipeline of students to come into Point Park.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
And I think Point Park can do a better job at kind of getting into the high schools and showing them just how unique we are here. I mean, our communications program, business programs, COPA obviously as well known. But I think that he really wants to try to get into the high school space and have conversations with leaders in high school, like principals, superintendents, coaches, teachers, invite them into the studio, have them bring a couple students with them, give them tours, and then sit down and talk about different leadership topics, maybe talk about what the school district is doing, and just creating that kind of conversation and dialogue and creating that pipeline for students. Because I know when I was in high school, and it's been a little bit more of a minute for me since I've been in high school, but it didn't really seem like there was a pipeline to do this kind of stuff in college. It felt more like STEM, like science, math, things like that. So a lot of high school students may not know that we have studios like this and classes like sports podcasting.
Yeah.
And so that's the vision.
I think that's pretty cool because I definitely agree. I think whenever I was in high school, there was a lot of events where, we're going to go to the science fair. We're going to go to this robotics event at Carnegie Mellon. And it was all, engineering and which is great because we need those people. Obviously, that's a very important thing to have. But I felt like there wasn't really anything like that with media. There wasn't anything where you could go. And I think my high school, we might have done a visit to KDKA or something like that. Or at some point I did something similar, but it wasn't necessarily as media-based. It wasn't you can go and you can see them produce this thing and you can see how they... So I think that's really cool. I like that.
Yeah, and we have the high school days and media days and whatnot. At the university over the summer, I taught a one-day podcast course to high school students. And they're craving this kind of stuff, and they're you both are younger than I am. You all have been kind of raised on this, and so I think that it's almost instilled that they're seeking the actual professional path, right?
Yeah.
And to find how can we take something like podcasting, media, communication, even social media management. How can we take that and leverage that into a career path? And I mean, wow, there are so many options for that. So, that's going to be the vision.
And I guess especially coming into Point Park, you have multimedia, broadcast production. You have so many different majors within that you could apply that stuff to.
Yeah.
That's super cool. I think, we were, whenever the podcast scene really kind of got popular, aside from, Rogan and, the people that were big, before it kind of blew up.
Yeah.
There's going to be the generation before us that really grew up with it, even more so than we did.
Yeah.
And then eventually everyone's going to grow up with that. But it's kind of we were sort of the in-between, I guess, with the generation that will grow up listening to podcasts from when they're young.
Yeah, for sure. And I think just, podcasting has been a thing for a minute, but it becoming something that creates revenue channels, I think, has been a little bit newer. From the sponsors and the advertising. I look at, I watch a lot of fantasy football podcasts. It's kind of what I built the format of my music podcast off of, actually, was fantasy focus football. It used to be with Matthew Berry, who's now on NBC. He moved from ESPN to NBC, but you got like Phil Yates and Daniel Daub on it. And I remember whenever they were first starting the podcast, like, first of all, it was just audio, right? So now the video element of podcasting is becoming massive, as we're seeing here right now. And just even seeing like an entity like ESPN grow in the last 5 years, with having, now they're on ESPN2 every Sunday for like 3 hours before the 1 o'clock games to talk all about fantasy. I mean, there is a podcast. It's kind of like TikTok. There is a podcast for everything. On TikTok, there is a corner of TikTok for everything. Yeah. And so, it is interesting to see this growth and development. And what's really encouraging about podcasting, why I love it and why there's just so many opportunities, is we're nowhere near the peak of what podcasting is going to be.
No.
Every entity, like financial companies, health organizations, whatever it may be, every entity can benefit from a podcast because there's going to be an audience for whatever niche topic that you're going to talk about.
And it's going to beat out TV.
I agree. Nobody wants to dedicate like a specific time frame. The ease and access to podcasting is what's making it so popular, where you can listen to it when you want. You could even speed up the dialogue to like a 1.5 speed so that they're talking faster, you're getting through it faster. You really have control when it comes to podcasting.
You can jump to the timestamps too.
Exactly.
That's what I was thinking, like, and this isn't like an original idea, but I'm just thinking, like, especially like in the comedy space, podcast gonna beat out TV.
Yeah.
SNL has to wait a week to put out the comedy sketch that who like Tim Dillon can write in 3 days, put out the podcast the next day. Like, you can just digest and put out so much more content than that. So it's exciting. I think like something like Patreon really made it like a viable like revenue stream for people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because then you have complete control. You can tailor the different monetary levels to what your audience and what your people want. You can give them exclusive access. And really, at the end of the day, it's like the approachability. Like, you get access to people who you look up to, mentors, leaders, athletes, celebrities, musicians. You get access to them in a way that you've never been able to before. I mean, you're like in their rooms. Somebody, I know the name Tom Brady is controversial to anybody who watches football. You either love the guy or you hate the guy. I'm indifferent on him, but, he's somebody who, for example, is leaning into podcasting, has his own podcast, has his own like supplemental brand. I think Ben Roethlisberger too, now retired from the Steelers, is starting his own podcast.
Oh, that's fire.
So, and Pat McAfee was talking about it on his show not too long ago, who is an amazing Pat McAfee, an amazing podcaster and everything like that. And apparently, Ben's got something good going there. So, I mean, it's like literally, so like in that example, you have an athlete who's retiring, and you would think like they're going to be moving into a different phase of their career, and they are. But here he is now starting a podcast talking about football.
Is that with Fox Business? Because didn't they sign some crazy big deal with him? Like 300.
With Ben?
No, with Tom Brady.
I don't know, actually. I don't know where Tom's at with that.
Fox Business gave Tom Brady like a $375 million contract to do like either to do like the commentary with like the guys like pregame or something. I don't know the details, but all I saw was that he got some fat contract.
Well, he probably did, but I mean, he's still playing. Tom Brady is, so if it's in
maybe
terms
it's
of,
when he's done.
It could be that kind of like what they were doing, like as Peyton Manning was entering the last like year of his career. Yeah, everybody was like, "Who's going to get him? Is it going to be NBC, ESPN?" And now
it's State or no, who is it? What does he do the commercials for?
Oh boy, what was his? Was it State Farm?
I think he's still, with him and Brad Paisley. They're still doing.
Yeah. It was where they were like writing like the ditties and stuff like that. But now Peyton is on what is it, ESPN2, I guess, on Monday nights doing the Manning cast or whatever it is with his brother Eli, where they basically are in their basements commentating on the Monday night football games, like separate from the actual Monday night commentary.
And they didn't invite Cooper, did they?
No, definitely not.
It's so funny. Like, what does that guy do? I heard that he was kind of successful, but it's so like, oh God, imagine being that guy. Like, you kind of have to be crushing it in some completely different area.
Yeah.
To eat like, oh, you're the like people know you as he's the other Manning brother.
Yeah, if you want to talk about living in a shadow, that's got to be the definition.
That kind of sucks.
It does, but you know what? I'd rather be a Manning. I'm sure their family's got money, they've got the fame. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, being a Manning, I'm sure isn't a tough life, right?
Yeah, that's so crazy. Like whenever families like have 3 kids and they're all professional athletes.
Yeah, it's rare. Like the Watts, like TJ Watt, JJ Watt. There's even a third Watt. I can't remember his name. I think he's on the. There's like 2 on the Steelers. It's not JJ. It's TJ who's out, I think, for a couple more weeks. There's another Watt on our team.
Really?
I think he was. He plays special teams. He was on the Chargers at one point.
I'm not connected to football at all, so I wouldn't know.
Football's the only sport that I really pay attention to.
Yeah, and the Tom Brady thing, like I'm indifferent. I mean,
yeah,
is he like the greatest quarterback?
It depends on the criteria of which you're basing it off of. Like if you're a lot of people just gauge like Hall of Fame stuff off of how many rings you've got. I mean, if you're going to base it off of Super Bowl rings, then I don't think that you can argue that Tom Brady is the GOAT because he has 6 rings. 6 rings with 1 quarterback, 1 coach, 1 system. That is absolutely crazy. The Steelers have 6 starting from the 70s to now. I mean,
yeah.
So 6 with 1 person, it is kind of insane if you think about it.
And how was he, 44?
45 now, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not that 45 is old, but in professional sports, 45
ancient. In terms of professional sports, yeah, you're ancient at 45.
45 is,
especially being high caliber as he is. And now, Tom Brady doesn't get touched very often. Like, they protect him very well, which has created the longevity for him. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. He was coming into this year. He was retired for like a quick minute. It took like I think 30 days.
I knew he wasn't gonna. I was like, he's gonna come back. He's not. It's kind of like when Hugh Jackman was like, I'm done being Wolverine, guys. And then before you know it, he doesn't get casted in anything, which is. Sorry about that, folks. My little thing fell off the microphone here, which is kind of sad. Like that, we're jumping all over the place here. But like,
we are.
I have a structured.
Yeah. I'm a talker for sure.
But Hugh Jackman was like, "I'm done being Wolverine," and I was like, "This is great." He's a super talented guy. Like in the greatest. Like I'm not like I like musicals, but a lot of times they make musicals into movies. I'm like, I could do without this. But I thought The Greatest Showman was awesome. Like he's a great singer in that.
I heard. I didn't see it, but I heard that he was actually fantastic.
He has a great singing voice, and I was ready for him to. But then before you know it, I mean, you wouldn't turn down being in Deadpool 3 with Ryan Reynolds, though. Nobody's going to turn that down.
No, definitely not.
Nobody's going to turn that down.
No.
But I'm excited because I thought he was good as Wolverine. I thought Logan was fantastic.
Absolutely.
I thought Logan was
I watched that too, yeah.
I don't even know, like, is it... there's a lot happening there. I thought he was dead, but now is it a new Wolverine, I guess?
I have no clue, to be honest with you. Sometimes the timelines and the storylines, they start to bleed together for me.
Well, now it's getting crazy because now they're doing like the multiverse stuff with Doctor Strange. So this might just be a whole new Wolverine.
Right, yeah. All the like superhero kind of comic movies and stuff, I don't watch all of them. It is just, to me, it's challenging to keep up with.
I'm falling off of Marvel quick.
Yeah.
Like there's all the shows and I can't keep up with them. I haven't watched the last 3.
Yeah, I haven't watched a lot the last couple.
And now the movies are going to start getting confusing. And it's sad because like they have so much of my time and money. Yeah. I saw every single one of those movies except for like 2 of them like so many times. And now I'm falling. So I'm Star Wars is all I'm keeping up with now.
Yeah.
That's
its own like full-time job sometimes too. You know what I mean? Now with all the Disney Plus spin-offs and things like that. Yeah, it's a lot.
I kind of feel like this might be totally like naive, but I feel like it's gonna backfire on them a little bit. Like
with what, spreading too thin? Do you think, or
no? Just with they're always gonna have an audience. Like Disney's never not gonna have it. Like it's Disney. They own me and you at this point. Basically, like they have everything, so they're never not gonna have an audience. But and not that they care about like their audience. They're like older audience.
They
like,
care
falling
about
off. They don't care.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking like. They've already announced like 6 Star Wars shows that are coming up.
Something like that.
I don't have time, and I just feel like like you said, with Marvel, I think it's suffering. It is suffering from spreading themselves too thin because even though it's a different director and it's a different like crew, I think they outsource a lot of their CGI.
Yeah.
Gavin, do you know? Like I don't. I thought that was mentioned one time that like they outsource some of their CGI to like smaller companies.
Yeah, I think they do.
So even like quality control might be a little bit.
And She-Hulk, like when they dropped the trailer, like
I haven't even seen anything about that. I know it exists.
Content of the show aside, because people love having a hot take about that show.
They do.
Content completely aside, I think it's great that Daredevil's coming back.
Yeah.
Because Charlie Cox's Daredevil was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they don't ruin his character. But content aside, otherwise, the CGI when they first dropped the trailer was awful.
For She-Hulk?
It was so bad.
I haven't seen it. I'll have to check it out.
They took back the trailer.
Oh, did they?
Re-edited it and put it back out, and it still looks bad.
It's that reminds me of like and I haven't seen these movies, but I've wanted to the Sonic movies.
Yes, they did that for Sonic as well.
I did see that first trailer, and it was like, wow. Like, and I love Sonic. I'm a big video gamer, and like I really do appreciate Sega and Sonic. But wow, I was like, this is gonna be in my nightmares for a little while.
And now the Mario movie's coming out.
Yeah, and Chris Pratt is doing the voice of Mario. They actually just released a trailer with his voice in it, and people are saying it sounds like the wife in Bob's Burgers. What's the Bob's Burgers? What's her name? Why can't I remember it?
I haven't seen Bob's
Lisa,
Burgers.
is it? I don't know, but yeah,
That's so funny.
It doesn't. I don't know. I don't. We'll see how it translates, but I can't picture Chris Pratt doing a cartoony Italian Mario kind of voice. We'll see.
Well, so they had dropped the trailer and he doesn't. It's just his voice.
Who
they dropped the
I'm
Mario
pretty sure
trailer.
it's an Italian accent.
Well,
I
it
can
is an
hear it a
Italian
little bit.
accent, but like it's very small, and people on the internet are like, "What the heck? It's just his regular voice." And like,
the accent is slight. And the thing is that the guy, and I can't remember his name right now, who voices Mario in the video games, the guy who does all the like little, yee-hoo or whatever kind of sounds.
Wahoo!
Yeah, that was pretty good. I can't remember his name, but he is still alive. Like, I mean, he still does the voices. You would think that this would be the guy to get for the movie, like, and actually have that translate very consistently into a movie, but nope, I guess not.
Well, I think it was because they were going for like an all-star like heavy hitter cast. Like you have Charlie Day playing Luigi, you have Jack Black playing Bowser, Seth Rogen playing like. But here's the thing: is like in the trailer, the character that's playing Toad doesn't even try to sound like Toad. It's just their regular voice. And
I haven't heard that
one. I feel betrayed. I was expecting like or however. I can't do a Toad voice.
They should have gotten you on board. You could do all the voices.
Jack Black as Bowser is going to kill it.
I agree with that. That was probably the best choice that they made there.
And Seth Rogen could just do his normal voice, and he's already Donkey Kong. No change needed.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I'm a Mario fan. That's certainly the nostalgia for me. So, I'll check it out, and it'll be interesting. But I feel like I'll just be looking at the Mario character, just picturing, like, Parks and Rec and Chris Pratt and stuff. Like, it's just going to be hard for me to vision something else.
I'm excited. I think it'll be, because the cast is so good. Like, you have to really screw up the writing, but it's Mario. Like, you have so much guidance already to just stick with that.
Hey, we've seen it before where it's a home run. It's seemingly a home run, and then it strikes out. So we'll see how it comes to fruition.
I'm excited. But let's jump into a little bit of this stuff.
Yeah, let's do it.
How did you start Spinning Thoughts, which is your music podcast? When did you start that, and why did you start it?
Yeah, so first of all, everybody can check out Spinning Thoughts. Our website is thespinningthoughts.com. We're on all social media at Spin Thoughts. We started in 2016. And I tell this story maybe 3 times throughout the 200-plus episodes that I have, so I don't really talk about it a lot, not for any particular reason. But so in 2016, I was in a band. I used to play in bands throughout middle school, high school, college. Like, being in a band was kind of the dream for me. I always said that if I didn't get a record deal by the time I graduated from my undergrad and college, that I would put that dream kind of just to the side. Like, I still wanted to play music and everything, but I was gonna, like, I had to start to pivot and focus on a career to make money, to pay loans back, and to, be happy in that capacity. So, I was playing in all kinds of bands, and in 2016, I was in a band, and there's this festival called 4-Chord Music Festival. It is run by a guy named Rishi Ball. Now, Rishi is a Pittsburgh legend in the music scene. This guy was in a band. They were formerly called the Space Pimps, and they changed their name to Eternal Boy. Rishi is also a tenured faculty at La Roche. He's around my age, a young adult, I'll say a young professional maybe. So he's kind of living like that dual life that I feel like I live, where, I have the professional version of me where I run the student conduct at Point Park University. Yeah. But that's just like the smallest, like, version of me. I am a music guy all the way through. So anyways, Rishi runs this festival. In 2016, it was in its third iteration. Now it's in year 8 or 9. So and it keeps getting bigger and bigger. Like he has all kinds of bands. Jimmy Eat World was just on the last bill. I want to say Rise Against, the Story So Far, Story of the Year, State Champs, all kinds of bands. Like if you're into pop, punk, alternative, indie, metal, that's the genres that Four Chord has. So anyways, I'm friends with Rishi. And in 2016, I really wanted one of my bands to play on Four Chord. It's always held in Pittsburgh, big event, great exposure. And Rishi told me no. Okay, and it's fine. You know, like he's running a business here. Like you got to get the best top tier bands. And, you know, when you're blending lineups with different genres, you got to be strategic with it. So I respected it. But I was really bummed because I was like, crap, you know, like I really wanted to play this fest. I felt like I was starting to lose a little bit of momentum in the music scene because I was getting a little bit older. All my friends have gone out and gotten married and have kids. Like the bass player in my band at the time, like he has 4 kids right now. 4. I have 2 dogs. Like he has 4 kids and he's married. And I'm like, whoa, like I just want to be ripping gigs like and touring the country. But so anyways, I was just really devastated that I wasn't playing Four Chords. So out of nowhere, literally one day I was thinking to myself, what is a way that I can get my foot in the door at Four Chord and not just be a guest and watching the show? Like I need to have some sort of spotlight to thrive. So one day I was like, you know what? I'm going to just start a podcast. I had no clue what it was going to be about or what the name was. I'm going to start a podcast and I'm going to tell Rishi that I have this music podcast and that I want to interview all of the bands from the national level bands that he has, because he always brings national level bands on all the way down to local, and he has a nice mixture of it. And I thought, hey, he'll at least hook it up for me to talk to these bands. It'll help promote the fest, and it'll give me some sort of involvement with it. So you know, I literally in one day just started looking and coming up with names. I'm a big vinyl record collector, so for me, Spinning Thoughts really kind of blended 2 things for me. One, I'm a thinker. I think a lot. Like, you know, my brain never shuts down. Like I'm a anxious kind of person. And so my thoughts are always spinning. Like I'm always thinking about stuff and always planning ahead. And I love music. So, you know, the logo is kind of like a play on words with a record spinning thoughts, talking about music. So I come up with this name. I tell Rishi, hey, I want to interview these bands. And he was like, absolutely. So he hooked it up and he got interviewed like over the course of 2 weeks, starting out with literally no social media, no website, no episodes at all. In 2 weeks, I interviewed close to 18 bands.
Whoa.
And yeah, it was a grind for sure. But it gave me like initially like 10 or so some episodes because I combined a couple of them into one episode. And it gave me like a little arsenal of episodes with bands that I could say, hey, I have interviewed band A, band B. And it literally just spiraled from there. Once I started interviewing some of these bands, I was like, wow, I kind of like this. Like, this is fun. This is something, because in a band, you have to rely on so many other people, drummers, bass players, venues, getting to shows, having people come out. With a podcast, I was in full control. I could tape it whenever I wanted. I could promote it and brand it the way that I wanted to. I didn't have to worry about, you know, my friends having all these stupid kids and everything like that. and so I really just fell in love with it and had never really paid attention to podcasts. I figured it all out on my own, and that's really where it started, was me just being jealous that I wasn't playing on Four Chord Fest 3, and I wanted a way to be involved, and so I created a podcast. And I remember interviewing all those bands, and then the big kind of break that I had was this is an older band from like the late 90s. They're still around, the early 2000s, like a true pop punk kind of legend band. They're called the Bouncing Souls, and they're good. And I reached out to them, and I just remember saying in an email, hey, you know, we're a music podcast. We recently interviewed all these bands from Four Chord Fest in Pittsburgh. We'd like to have you on the show. And they were like, oh, yeah, you've interviewed all these bands. We'd love to come on. So I was like, okay. So now I'm starting to build a reputation. The Bouncing Souls came on. So then the next episode, I hit up a band called Less Than Jake. They're a ska band, one of my favorite bands ever. So I hit up Less Than Jake. I'm like, hey, we just interviewed the Bouncing Souls. Would you like to come on? And so I just kept doing that. Every time I wanted to talk to a band that I loved and appreciated, I just told them, I've interviewed all these awesome bands that are very similar to you, and they were down, so you should be down.
Yeah.
And then now it's gotten to the point where I can't keep up, where I'm, you know, I have national level bands reaching out to me, local bands. Oh, yeah, it's
I did not know it was that big.
The podcast?
I did not know it was that big.
It's big. Yeah.
That's
I mean,
cool.
I don't
That's
want to toot my
awesome.
own horn or anything. But yeah, it's gotten way bigger than what I thought it would be. I have 15 people who write for me. I have 2 in Canada. The rest are throughout the United States, all organic. We met, just from them following Spinning Thoughts and consuming the content that I created. And I wanted to start to bring on contributors to not just have a podcast, but to become a music outlet. So we, on the website, write album reviews. We get albums in advance. We just got the, for those who like this band, Sleeping with Sirens, with Kellen Quinn. We just got their advance for an album dropping next week. So we get like all these bands that I just absolutely love. We get to listen to their music early, write about it before it drops. Yeah, and it's become something big. And we ended up landing a deal with Adobe Radio, which is the #1 online music network at radio for pop punk indie alternative. So Spinning Thoughts, I'm a personality on Adobe Radio. Like, they've put me on billboards in LA and Chicago, New York.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a cool ride. It's honestly one of the most proud things I've ever done. Like, I built this literally out of nowhere, never planned to do this. It was built off of jealousy. And here it is now. Like, I'm actually putting a spotlight on bands, marginalized communities, bands that don't always get the love. Like, now I'm able to give back a little bit to the lower level bands, but at the same time, I still get to talk to the bands that I love, that I look up to, that I listen to every single day, and now I get to talk to them. So it's pretty sick.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't even know all that.
Yeah.
That's great.
This is why podcasts are awesome, because you get to go in depth about the things that, people have going on.
Yeah, you've mentioned it to me, and I've known you've been doing it, but I didn't know it was. I thought it was just like a side thing you were doing. Is it still a side thing, I guess?
I mean, technically I call it a side thing, but there's times where it feels like I'm putting more time and effort in it than my 40-hour-a-week day job. You know what I mean? I sleep, breathe, dream, eat this stuff. Like, Spinning Thoughts has become an extension to me. I am so proud of it. There are times where it's so overwhelming because I am just bombarded with bands, with press teams, with record labels that want podcasts. They want me to do TikToks for them and talk about their bands. We do playlists. We do album reviews. We do, I have music photographers that I get into shows all around the country to shoot different fests. We were at When We Were Young Fest out in Arlington, Texas. Huge fest. So yeah, and I don't really talk about it a lot because I try to stay humble about it. But at the end of the day, like, I teach a podcasting class and I tell people, no one's going to talk about your stuff unless you do. So I should take my own advice and talk about it a little bit more. And so here I am.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's really cool that you're teaching people about it too. I think that's cool. Like, it's a lot of giving back involved. I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, that's the vision and ethos in everything I do in life is I don't want to just be self-serving. If there's a way that I can do something and at the same time help somebody else, then that's exactly what I want to do. And so, yeah, and then, in the future, the vision is to actually create more of a network of Spinning Thoughts where there's other podcasts underneath mine, where we push out like other people's content as well, where the main podcast is mine, but then we have maybe 4 or 5 other podcasts that are in different genres of music or different capacities like that.
Do you think that'll ever become your full-time job?
So here's the thing. If I wanted it to be, I easily could. There's revenue streams that I have on it. Now, I don't do this for the money, and I don't make a lot of money from it. And that's intentional because I don't want to be owned by the advertisers and sponsors just yet. I mean, and I say that loosely. Like, it's up to you on how much sovereignty you want to give advertisers and sponsors and stuff. But right now, nobody tells me what to do. Nobody tells me what bands to interview. Nobody tells me when to do what I do, and I like that. So if I wanted it to be a full-time thing, I think that I could make it a full-time thing, and I could make money and live comfortably off of it. But the thing with me is that I can't just do one thing, right? My other passion besides music really is higher education. Like, I know it's a weird kind of thing, but without me going to Kent State University for my undergrad, I wouldn't be the person I am today. Like, I found myself there. I walked in one person and I came out a completely better, different person. And I owe a lot to Kent State and just to what higher education has done for me. And I just can't imagine not working in this capacity either. And so, to be honest with you, Carson, like, I'm kind of living the best of both worlds right now.
Yeah,
Here
you
I
are.
am,
You are.
you know, a director at a university. I teach multiple classes throughout an entire academic year, one of them being a podcasting class.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, it doesn't stop me from doing anything with Spinning Thoughts. If anything, me running Spinning Thoughts is what's given me more opportunities at Point Park. People love that I do it. That's how I've gotten into the podcasting classes here, helping Don Green launch one. So, yeah, it's right now, I'm insanely grateful for what I have going on, and I'm fine with where I'm at right now.
That's awesome. Yeah. Speaking of which, we're trying to get Don Green on this show.
Oh, we could get him on easily.
If he's listening, Don Green, President Green, if you're listening, come on the show.
We'll get him on. I'll talk to him.
I think it would be great.
Yeah, we'll get him on.
I'm really interested in in his story and everything that he's done to get where he is. And I honestly, I'll just be frank. I think he gets a lot of hate that he doesn't deserve.
Yeah. Well, I think he does too. I think it's kind of like a 50-50 thing. I think some people, I'm not trying to equate myself to being like Don Green, although I do look up to him. I like his energy. I like his vision. I like his connections to people.
Yeah.
I've gotten feedback throughout my life with the amount of energy and passion that I possess. A lot of people, if they don't know me well, they think it's fake. They think that it's not sustainable. Like, they think that this energy and passion is just like a charade to get people in. And it's not. Like, this is me, and I think that that's what happens with Don. This is a guy who is a president of a university who is so in tune with the younger generation, so in tune with higher ed, and so in tune with connecting to people that people think it's fake. And I think that that's why. But when you sit down and talk to him, he comes from humble beginnings. If you've ever heard him talk, he grew up in a town somewhere in Michigan where there's maybe 1,000 people.
Yeah.
He's told stories in my University 101 class. He speaks to them every year where his father was dropped off at some house or something with a goat, and had to build a life out of nowhere. I don't know. It's just I know it sounds goofy, but the guy has come from humble beginnings. He's built a life for himself.
Every time I talk to him, it seems like he's just a genuine guy. And I can definitely see how people think that that's fake. But I think I want to give people a chance to actually hear a prolonged conversation with him. So I feel like everyone would get to know him better, and I feel like everyone would appreciate the stuff that he's done. Yeah,
I also do a podcast here at the university called Take the Hill. It's with Dr. Patrick Mulvihill, who is the chair of the management programs in the School of Business. Mm-hmm. The other host is Dennis Furkadich, who is a professor in HR in the School of Business. And right before Don Green started as president here at Point Park, me, Patrick, and Dennis had Don on the podcast.
Oh, really?
And so one of the first interviews that Don ever did, or any exposure that he had to this community here at Point Park, was with our podcast. And he's a fantastic guest. This man can speak, and he can speak vividly and colorfully. And so, Don, we got to get you on this podcast for sure.
Don, please, President Green, please come on the show.
Absolutely.
So I guess I want to jump a little bit, maybe into some more, not difficult stuff, but just maybe some stuff that's important, I think. Okay, we talk politics occasionally here.
Yeah.
We've been talking about, our work with our Bridge USA chapter we've been doing, and with the Forward Party chapter that we're running. How does, I guess, national and local politics, how does that play into university life, and how does that sort of shape, student life from your perspective as a student conduct leader?
Well, I think that, first of all, everybody should have – I'm a big believer in the freedom of speech, obviously. Mm-hmm. I run a podcast where I swear and talk and, say what I want and do what I want. I'm a big believer in freedom of speech. And for me, when it comes to politics, that is where you get some of the best kinds of conversations. Now, they could be challenging conversations, right? And they can be divisive at times, but I think that when it comes to the college life and aspect and politics, I think it's at the core of what a lot of people do. As students are coming into college, they're turning 18, they're able to vote for the first time.
Yeah. And
even me, as I continue to get older and grow up, every year I feel that I'm getting more into politics because I'm starting to see the impact and the relevance that it has on my life. The more property that I own, the more investments that I make, the more healthcare that I need and things like that. I recognize, wow, politics has something to do with this. Driving into work, the infrastructure to get here, right? Politics is all around us. So I think in college, students are maybe for the first time, and I'm sure that there's some exposure with like poli-sci classes in high school and whatnot, but I think for like the first time in college, students are starting to see, okay, I can vote now. My voice can be heard. I can lobby for people. I can speak up about things that I believe in and things that I don't believe in. I can create something out of nothing. So, yeah, I think it's an integral part of the college world and college life, university life. At Point Park, I'd like to see more of it, to be honest with you. I think that, there's certainly like political views here on this campus, and I think that they lean a certain way. I'd like to see just more of all sides, of all dialogue, of all discussion. And in all of my classes that I teach, specifically University 101, which is University City Life, I'm a big supporter and advocate in the class to teaching these students how to speak civilly about hot button topics, right? We have to. You have to. I remember the other day in class, the module was on like safety around campus. And so we watched an active shooter video that the Point Park Public Safety Police created a few years ago. They actually got an award for it. Have you ever seen it?
Is that the Alice one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they filmed it on campus. Like Chief B song, Deputy Chief Black was in it. First of all, it's a wildly good video. Again, it was like produced here at Point Park and everything. Yeah. And so we watched that video, and then we had a very good civil discussion about school shootings and the right to bear arms, the Second Amendment, and what people thought. And there were a lot of people in that class that felt that, there should be no guns, period. There were a lot of people who thought, look, I think that there should be guns, but there should be some restrictions. And there were some who just, it was all angles of it.
Yeah.
And we were able to successfully have a civil dialogue about a topic that is really important. Yeah. And, you might be able to relate to this a little bit more than me, being slightly younger than me. But, when I was growing up in middle school and high school and stuff, as I was heading into like the back end of my high school years, we were starting to get these active shooter trainings and like what to do, barricading the doors and stuff. But not for a lot of my education in K through 12. Most of what we were doing was being taught how to get under a desk if there was an earthquake or like a hurricane or something like that, even though we weren't really in those areas. So like the younger generation, like you all have grown up with almost just accepting that these things happen. Yeah. And I feel like students have really become desensitized to it to an extent, unless it happens to you or to your school or to your community. But yeah, to kind of land the plane, I think that we need to be able to talk about these things. We'll never be able to come up with solutions if all we do is argue.
Yeah, I agree. Going back to this active shooter thing, I think from what I can remember, probably I'm going to throw out a year, and it's definitely going to be wrong, but I remember being young and us at least having, I don't know if they ever really mentioned, like, oh, like it's a school shooter, but they're like, oh, somebody's in the building, like they're not supposed to be here, everybody huddle in the corner of the room, turn off the lights, like that kind of thing. I remember it being when I was young, like probably like third grade, maybe even before that. So I think we've grown up with that sort of as a reality, but in a way, I think I have become desensitized to it. When the Uvalde shooting happened, obviously I looked at this as it's a horrible thing. Like, it's horrible that happened. But at the same time, a part of my brain was like, it's so far away from us. Like, that doesn't make it any less real.
Right.
But in my brain, it's like, it's so far away from us. I've been very blessed to never have experienced this.
Yep.
So in a way, it just like, it feels like it's another world. And I hope that I never have to experience it. And I hope that no one ever has to experience it. But it is sort of the reality, and I think that is a bit of an issue.
Yeah, I agree, and to me, we have to be able to talk about it, because there obviously is something going on. Guns aren't just unique to America. Guns are all around, and I'm not going to be one of those people that say that it's all mental health or it's all the person with the gun. The problem with it, my view when it comes to politics and these societal topics is that very few people can talk in the middle. Very few people want to recognize that there is some validity on both sides, and then let's find something in the middle that makes the most amount of sense, that can help the most amount of people. That's an area of opportunity that has just seemingly been gone since, really, I'd say maybe around the George W. Bush time frame, and certainly after,
Yeah, I think that's something that I certainly try to do. I think with the gun thing, I look at it like, okay, it's the guns. Partially, at least some of the blame goes to the gun, because the gun is actually the thing that's killing the people.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, it has to become like the individual. The individual has to be responsible for that. And I think that part of it is mental health. And I think the one part that maybe people are saying it, but I haven't really heard it have that much. And this is just what it seems like to me is that I think what the numbers show is that it's I think not even it's a majority male thing. Like it's male young men that are doing this a lot. And if you look at young men are falling behind in education.
Oh yeah.
Young men are falling behind in the dating market. Young men are falling behind in universities. Like they're checking out of degrees, jobs, dating. All that
there's
stuff.
more women in higher ed than there are men.
Yeah.
IQ scores are lower. Life expectancy is lower for men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at almost any category, and I bet you males are behind.
Right, and so I'm thinking, like, so is that a part of, like, our society is in a way, like, failing young men? And then, like, too many of any inequality is bad for a society, obviously. But especially, like, I don't know if we're going to see the effects of it in 5 years or in 10 years, but, like, too many young men that sort of feel alone and sort of helpless like that, that's not a good thing. And then I think those are the kinds of people that would go shoot up a school.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, when I was growing up and everything, like I suffer from anxiety and, you know, I remember in my undergrad, like I was really starting to feel the anxiety becoming crippling where I like was in a good mood, but like I physically just couldn't leave my dorm to go to class. And I remember calling my mom one day and I'm just like, and I kind of had tears in my eyes. And I'm like, Mom, I really don't know what the heck is going on with me here. Like I'm such an outgoing person. Like I love life. I'm grateful to be alive and to have the opportunities that I have. But yet I'm like staring at the door and I just, for some reason, my legs won't move to get me out the door. Like what is going on? Mm-hmm. And I remember it being one of the most challenging things to do was to call my mom and admit those things.
Yeah, of course.
And then she was like, well, Angelo, you know, I suffer from anxiety too. I'm on medication. Like, you should consider this. And I immediately was like, absolutely not. I was like, I'm not going to take medication. Are you kidding me? Like, I can take care of this myself. And so a few more weeks went by where it was crippling anxiety for me. And I finally decided, okay, I'm going to do this. But I remember even taking the medicine for the first year or two, I felt like I was weak. Like I felt like I should be able to fix this myself. And I think that's society. I think that may have been some family things like that were pressed down onto me. And just even like the other day in my class for University 101, because we're talking about mental health this week, I told my class, like, hey, if you ever need anything, come up and see me in my office. Like, if you ever need to cry, like, I'll cry with you. And I remember a couple of the students in the class, like, were laughing. And I was like, what? And they're like, oh, okay, you're going to cry? And I was like, yeah, I'm not above crying. Like, what? I mean, who cares? Like, we all do. I don't care if anybody, like, there's nothing wrong with that. And I actually want to point out, like, these things. And I'll be the one that says, yeah, I cry. I'm a dude and I cry. Who cares?
Yeah, I think all guys do.
There's nothing wrong with that. But it's the fact that we can't show emotion, you know, without feeling the stigma either internally or externally. And you bring all that together, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
And being judged for it in some, not all cases, but in some cases we are judged for that, I think. I think to an extent that is sort of weaponized to an extent, you know, and it's not a good thing, but that's kind of how it is. But I do agree. And I think the mental health thing, I think that's one thing that that the progressive movement has done that I think is really beneficial with our generation is like getting rid of the stigma on mental health.
Yeah.
You can't beat it on your own. Like sometimes you can, sometimes, you know, I go to the gym like 6 days a week. And I think that is like a huge thing for my mental health. Like it just feels good. Like when I leave, I just feel good. Like I just like, at least I did something with my day. At least I moved something, like, and I don't mean like weights all the time, but like at least I did something. But even then, like, you know, people struggle with that, and it's not, but I think that's a good thing that like that we've sort of started get that ball rolling a little bit, that it's not a bad thing to go to therapy.
No.
It's not a bad thing to go ask for help. And it doesn't make you weak.
No.
It can make you stronger. Like if you get that out of the way, you're going to be able to do more stuff.
Yeah, and people get into their own heads a little bit too much. Like I am a victim of that myself, where I'm just too much in my own head a lot. But I think one thing that people have to remember is that everybody's living their own life, and sometimes we feel like people are thinking about us individually too much, and they're not. Like if you you know what I mean, like if you say something that, like, you know, didn't land well with like a friend or something like that, like somebody might perseverate on that and be like, wow, I can't believe I said that. Wow, I feel so bad. Like, should I apologize? That person probably has already moved on and is not thinking about it anymore. But yet we will self-mutilate internally and just continue to perseverate on things. People are not that invested in your own life. They're invested in their life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so sometimes I think that that's even just a reminder that we have to have, like, nobody's really, some people are out there judging, but I feel like, no one's sitting there just waiting for somebody to talk about their mental health and be like, ha, you're weak. Ha, look at
Yeah.
you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it's a tough problem to overcome.
I do that all the time. I'll say something and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. And then for the next 24 hours, I'm just like, oh, I shouldn't have. Like, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
And I'll text him and I'll be like, I'm overthinking this, right? And he's like, yeah. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
Not even like with something I did wrong. I'll just be like talking about like even making questions for this show here. I was like, I can't think of like concrete questions. And I'm like, Gavin's like, what if we just have a conversation with him? I'm like, what if I just overthinking it again? So I do that all the time. I don't know. I imagine probably a lot of people do that all the time. And that is not good. It's not good for you.
No, it's not. It's not good for your mental health. It's not good for your relationships. And again, I just don't think that people are perseverating with you, right? Like you are thinking about something in your own life, in your own world. They're off thinking about what's going on in their life and in their world. And yes, sometimes those worlds come together, but it's not like like I experience it all the time, similar to what you just said. Like when I'm doing podcasts, it's weird for me to be on this end of a podcast, by the way. Like I'm used to the one writing the questions, asking the questions and everything. But like I remember even this semester, one of the weeks in University 101, like I felt like it wasn't my strongest performance. And I do look at teaching like a performance. I mean, they are there. They want to gain something from it. You have to prepare. You want to execute. You want to be at a high level, right? To me, that's a performance.
They're paying to be there.
Exactly. And I felt like I had a weak performance in one of my classes. And for the next 2 days until the next class, I was just like, honestly, like I was losing sleep over it because I respect being a teacher. Like I respect the fact that people are putting money into this, that they're showing up to class. Like I want to deliver for people. And so I was truly like beating myself up over this. So I remember I walked into the class like 2 days later and I apologized to the class. I was like, hey, I really had a weak outing on Tuesday and I want to apologize. And everybody was like, what are you talking about, dude? We loved that class. And so it's like sometimes we do this to ourselves and it's just a good example. Like they literally had no clue that I had a bad performance. I thought I did, but they all thought that it was fine. And so I go to them after 2 days of destroying my mental health. They're all like, what are you talking about, dude? And then I'm like, why did I just waste 48 hours of destroying my mental health for nothing?
Yeah. It's overthinking a lot.
Yeah.
And I guess if there are those people that really are thinking about that thing that you messed up with all the time, those people don't have enough going on.
They need another hobby.
Go get a job.
Start a podcast.
Go start a podcast.
Start a podcast.
Just go do something productive.
Yeah.
Those people are probably far and few between, I'd imagine. But
I agree. But and I can say that right now because right now I don't have a moment that I'm perseverating on where I feel like I didn't perform. But if I hell, maybe I'll say the wrong thing here and I'll think for the next 3 days, wow, I wish I didn't say that during the podcast. So far, so good.
Let me know if you do.
I will. But so far I'm feeling good.
I'll let you know too. I'll be like, man, I shouldn't have said that one thing.
And we could boost each other.
That question bombed or something.
Nah, right now I think we're killing it so far.
I think it's going well. So, what was a moment, I guess, whenever you were, I guess I don't want this question to come off the wrong way, or maybe this hasn't happened, but was there what was a moment where you were in your position as a student conduct leader when you sort of thought that the university was in the wrong on this one, and like you felt for the student in this case of like, what are we doing? Like, why are we sort of has that happened? Is that a thing that has occurred?
So I've been in the role of director of student conduct. It was a year in August of 2022. So I'm now in year 2. So far, I've not had something where, like, my superiors, which is, like, Dean Palo, Dean Gieske, where, like, I am in charge of conduct. Like, they don't tell me what to do. They don't weigh in on my decisions. So I've never really experienced that because they're not telling me what to do. I have full sovereignty to approach student conduct the way that I see it, which is educational, not punitive, which is approachable, not aggressive, right?
Yeah.
And that's my vision. So, no, I mean, they've been supportive of every decision that I've had. And I've had, some challenging cases, and because I work cases all the way from noise violations in the residence hall all the way up to theft, violence, sexual violence, all kinds of stuff. And so, no, I mean, I really haven't experienced that yet, luckily. And I'm sure it'll happen sometime. But the thing that I like about student affairs, at least here at Point Park, and I like Point Park, to be honest with you. Like, I really don't have much bad to say about Point Park. I think that it's easy, like, to say something bad about anywhere. Like, every place has areas of opportunity. But overall, this place is a good place. They care about students. I used to work at a school where students were not students. They were a number. They were like literally a number. And the only goal was for them to pay us money. And whatever you have to do for them to remain a number in our system, you do that. It's not what it's like here. So I haven't really experienced like any kind of variance in what my vision is versus somebody else's, or in a case that I've had and had to decide in it being different than somebody else's. I've felt a ton of support, so I haven't really experienced that.
That's good. That's good. I was kind of curious about that, because I guess it could be that miscommunication could easily happen.
It can.
Where then all of a sudden you're in your position and you potentially feel like you've missed something, and then that could be a whole thing. But I'm glad that I hope that doesn't happen. I'm part of me surprised that it hasn't happened yet, right? And another part of me anticipates it happening at some point where maybe administration, because I'm not the end all be all. Like I certainly, like I am the one that investigates and adjudicates cases. But yeah, if I were to do something that was egregiously against like the vision of Dean Palo or Dean Gieske, they would supersede me, and they can. They're deans of the school. I'm a director. But I have not experienced that, and I'm somebody though that embraces I don't want to say conflict, but I embrace diversity of thought. And so, I can't imagine that I would approach a conversation like that with animosity or aggression. It would be more of, I'm fine with standing up for myself and standing up for my point, but I'm also fine with hearing others' vision and finding a collaboration on it as well. And ultimately, that's the vision for me with student conduct, at least, is to be impartial, to be non-biased, and to just look at every situation for what it's worth in that situation. And so far, we've all been on the same page here. And I guess you mentioned diversity of thought. I think that's something that's very important. It's sort of like my brand, I guess.
Trying
I'm picking
up on that.
To listen to all those people. Do you think? Well, maybe not like that, but how what steps, I guess, has Point Park taken to reach some diversity of thought? Has that been something that's really on the table? Is that something that's being worked towards?
Yeah, I think so. We've noticed a lot, like with a lot of the political issues. Like, I'll give an example where, what's the example that I want to give? Whenever the Roe V Wade thing got overturned, right? There obviously was a lot of opinions on it, and I embrace anyone to share their opinion on the matter. That's what politics is about. That's what being American is all about, is expressing your thoughts in a civil and respectful way. But we noticed that whenever that case was overturned, that there was a lot of dialogue on social media from Point Park students voicing their concerns. And there is a difference between voicing your opinion, voicing your concern, and then trying to leverage that in a verbally violent kind of way. So anytime, let me set it straight though. Like me, the deans, we are not on social media just looking at what students are posting, right? But if something gets brought to my attention, I have to address it. I have to look into it.
Of course.
And I actually look forward to those kinds of conversations. So I had a couple conversations over the summertime where some students on campus were concerned about certain viewpoints and positionings on the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And they were asserting that certain students were being violent with their words, that they were, being dismissive or just creating safety concerns just from their opinion on a very, very hot button
contentious
topic.
Issue.
Yeah, for sure. And so something that the university does is like we sit down with these students who have these concerns about people expressing their opinions, and we try to educate them on freedom of speech. We try to educate them on politics. We try to educate them on, even if it is like putting up different filters on Twitter so you're not seeing this kind of content. Like if you're triggered by this kind of stuff, that's a real thing, and I respect that. Don't expose yourself to it. There's ways.
Don't look at it then.
Exactly. There are ways that you can avoid it. You don't have to subject yourself to that kind of turmoil if you don't want it to.
I mean, I did that. Like, whenever the Roe v. Wade thing happened, I just deleted Instagram.
Yeah.
I didn't want to look at it anymore. It was and I get it. Like, personally, I was upset about it, and I have friends that were not, and that's okay. Like, because I respect those people. I know them. These aren't hateful people, but I myself was upset by it, and I was seeing everybody's story.
Yeah.
It was constant. Like, an Instagram story was up for 24 hours. People had it on loop.
Oh, yeah.
On loop, multiple posts. So I just deleted it because I didn't want to look at it anymore.
Yep.
And now my new Instagram account, I don't follow anybody that's posting that stuff. I follow maybe like 40 people, and it's great because it's not on my feed anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, social media is just so prevalent in our lives that I highly recommend anybody listening out there, like, look at your social media feed. Are you inspired by what you're seeing? Are you hurt by what you're seeing? Does it bring you down? If you're not getting good feelings from what's on your FYP or on your feed, change it. Like, block people, unfriend people. Like, one of the best things about being an adult is you don't have to be around the same people like you were in K through 12. Like, there were
just ignore them.
Right. Like, you get to make your decisions. As an adult, I've moved on from certain friends. As an adult, I've moved on from certain family members. You know what I mean? And you want to be cautious with that and do what's right for you. But at the end of the day, like, what we try to do in student conduct and student affairs is to give people the tools to be mentally sound, to hear people out, to have civil discussion, and not just jump straight to feeling violated or that there's violence with words. There can be, and there are cases of that. But yeah, we try to like sit down and just play a neutral party and talk it out with them. And really, we've seen a lot of success with that. When we sit down with people and we say, okay, what about this is worrying you? Do you actually feel like your safety is threatened right now? If so, why? How can we support you? And just by being heard, sometimes people feel a lot better. And so that, I guess, really ultimately, to answer your question, like, what are we doing? We're listening to people. We're having conversations that are non-punitive, that are informal. So, I'm not charging students for expressing their opinion, right? We're meeting with them to educate, because my vision of conduct is, and I'll say it probably more than just this second time now, it is one of education, not one of being punitive. I'm an educator. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a police officer. I don't want to be either. I want the lawyer's salary, but I
I think a lot of people do.
But I am none of those things. I am an educator, and I am somebody that loves people. And so I want to help people just live a happier, healthier life.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's what we're trying to do with the Bridge USA Club, I think, is that I've sort of felt like maybe even at the bottom of it all, people haven't heard truly what the other perspective is. I know that I certainly didn't. And that's why, like, I think if I had to pick, like, if I had to, I would have my social media feed just be, like, as 50-50 as possible. Because if I see too much of one thing, it just bugs me.
Absolutely.
If it was too much of anything, like, political, it drives me crazy. I have to have somebody, because I think that everyone's saying something that's relevant to at least some degree.
And people feeling something is valid. Like, I mean, it's like people are allowed to feel things. And like, even I have like multiple YouTube accounts, and the reason why I do is because I want diversity in my recommended.
Oh, you have them lean a certain.
Yeah,
that's cool. I've heard people do that with their Twitter accounts.
Absolutely, like, because I will watch all kinds of politics on YouTube because I love independent politic creators. Like, they are some of the best content creators out there, and I love all sides, left, right, in between. I love hearing it all, informing my own opinion, and just even looking at how they create their content without the politics even being part of it. I just love to see how they go about their business. And so, like, I have multiple YouTube accounts because the second that you watch the Daily Wire, you're going to get all kinds of stuff that lean to the right.
You're going to get Turning Point. You're going to get Dave Rubin,
Yep.
all those people.
The second that you watch the Young Turks or Brian Taylor Cohen or whatever, then everything's going to be leaning left.
Yeah.
And it literally, you get the ads. Like right now with voting season being here, you're just going to get all of the political ads for the one side. So, yeah, I mean, that's one way. And that's something else that I tell students, too, is like, this is the kind of, like, use technology to your advantage. I have 3 or 4 YouTube accounts so that I'm not just being brainwashed by one particular feed.
Let me tell you something.
Okay.
These midterm ads.
Yeah.
I hate all of them.
They're terrible.
And why, YouTube, I know you're watching this. Why can't I skip them?
Yeah.
Why?
You're right. Yeah, because they're paying the money.
Why?
They're paying the top dollar to have the non-skippable ads.
Of 20, and I get it. It's only 15 or 20 seconds. I get it. But I watch a lot of YouTube. So over time, I've seen the same Josh Shapiro ad
I know.
in Spanish.
I know.
It's in Spanish.
I know.
I don't listen. I would love to speak Spanish.
Me too.
It would be useful. It would be great.
Yeah.
But I don't speak Spanish. And why YouTube make them please let me skip them?
They don't want you to skip them because
want me to skip
these
them.
political parties are paying top dollar to give you non-skippable
And
ads.
they all suck.
They're terrible.
They're all. But with that being said, we have the funniest senator race
No question.
right now in the country.
Yeah.
We have the funniest one.
No, there's no question.
We have the funniest one.
Yeah, there is so much comedy that is coming from it that, like, you know, that it's a nice, you know, reprieve with all the badness. But yeah, it's pretty comical.
If I saw the ads 5 times less than I did, I would still be feeling the comedy.
Yeah.
But now I see them so much that I just get sad.
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
like, oh my God, this is what we're here.
Yep. I usually just hit the mute button when they're on.
I do
They
too.
come
I
on, I
do
hit
too.
mute for 15, 20 seconds,
Yeah.
then I unmute it again.
Yeah.
I'm just so sick of it. At least give me a different ad. Like, it's the same one over and over again, too, you know?
At least, and you know what's funny is, like, I actually haven't, not to, like, jump into, like, the individual stuff, but, like, I've seen a lot of Fetterman and Oz.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of Shapiro.
Mm-hmm.
No Doug Mastriano ads. I haven't seen. Have you seen any?
I've seen a little.
I've seen. That's the one that I've seen, which is interesting. Again, like guys, I don't care. I don't care about any of it. Like, I'll vote.
Yeah.
But, like, I do not care. But I'm wondering. Like, I'm just curious. Why is Doug not? Now, if I drive out like 30 minutes away from the city,
You might.
Oh, there.
Yeah, you'll see the signs, yeah.
The flags and the signs. There are pirates out there, and they just have flags over their pickup trucks.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's just like we're living in pirate. Like, that's what it is now. We're just like we brought back the flags on the pirate ships.
Truly. And, yeah, it's just not on water. It's just on concrete as we're driving around the concrete.
Yeah, and the Ford
cities.
F-150. No, I don't want to skew that. Like, there are plenty of people that have the the bumper stickers.
Yeah.
I see some bumper stickers where they must just be above my pay grade because I don't know what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm reading. There's like 15 of them on the back of this car. And they're like, once you see one, you know exactly where the other 14 are going.
Oh, absolutely.
All at the
And
same
in general, though, I am somebody that does not subscribe to putting bumper stickers on a car. Like, to me, that is not something that I'm a fan of, period. Like, I don't know. Like, I paid $29,000 for my car. Do you think I'm going to put some janky sticker on the back that you can't get off? No. I don't actually think that there is a good bumper sticker. Like, some are funny, sure, but I just don't like bumper stickers, period.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of bumper stickers.
Get
We
the
can retire.
magnets.
Get
What?
rid of them.
Get the magnets.
Get-
You can take
it-
them
Yeah,
If
the
you're gonna
magnets are
easier.
fine, but still, you know, any kind of swag like that on a car, to me,
Don't put your politics on your car.
yeah, you're asking.
That
You're asking
sucks.
for it. Yeah.
Leave it on Twitter and Instagram. Putting it on your car, it's a whole nother level of commitment that I'm not ready to commit to.
It is,
quite
but it's
frankly.
also, I think, a microcosm because people don't want to sit down face to face and have conversations. They just want to flex.
Yeah.
They just want to assert. They don't want to talk. And
Yeah,
and so you see that with social media where people will post things. They put bumper stickers, they put signs and flags up. But how many of those people are sitting down and having civil dialogue with people and hearing other people out, truly listening to them? I don't know.
Well, I tried it. Like, not to jump into like the Roe v. Wade thing. I had some conversations with people briefly, like when it first came out, and I tried to make this constructive. It's not. I'm gonna say it's not. I'm not gonna say it's impossible, but the stuff that they were saying, I just thought you wouldn't say that to me if you were sitting here like this.
Yeah.
You wouldn't say this to anybody.
Yeah.
Because it entirely warrants, like, some of it warranted me punching you in the face. which you're not ready for,
Yeah.
which I'm not ready for,
Right,
which is
yeah.
why I'm not going to say that stuff to you, but I thought it was so wild. Like, I tried for maybe a half hour, which was 30 minutes too many.
Oh, I bet.
Too many. And so I'm done. I'm done having conversations on social media about it. I can't do it anymore.
The Roe v. Wade thing is challenging, and if anything, what I think needs to happen is that these different political parties and viewpoints, they need to start on something a little less intense than that. You know what I mean? Like, we need to be able to talk about something that is a little less personal and physical. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot to that, and I get why people are so divided on that, but it's like, it seems like, at least whenever all this over the summer came out, like, that's all the politics that were talked about. We need to kind of start with something a little bit smaller. But even then, like, how long did it take for the infrastructure thing to get passed? It finally went through, I think, with Biden's administration. But that's been something that, like, even I think Obama was trying to do, Trump was trying to do. So, like, that's a great example of just where here's something that everybody agrees on that literally has no political affiliation. It is just so people can get to work.
It's just our bridges in this city that are going to start falling into the river.
One had recently. Not into
one
the river,
literally
but
did fall into.
Yeah.
Fell.
I walk the Smithfield Bridge every day. I park over at Station Square, and I always think about, like, wow, all these holes. One of these times, I'm gonna fall into one of these. And but yeah, I mean, the infrastructure thing just is that's an example of, like, a conversation that we should be able to have. But I think part of the problem with that is that politicians try to slip in other things with infrastructure bills where it has nothing to do with infrastructure. It leans into their side of the party aisle, and then everybody's like, oh, nope, stop, we gotta stop it. Now you're trying to slip this in.
And it's like, and the bill's 1,000 pages long.
Yeah.
And it's just like the Apple Terms of Service.
Yeah.
Nobody reads it.
Yep.
And then maybe the politicians do that, then go to oppose it. But yeah, it's definitely something that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just make it like it's always just slipping something in there.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, like, and I'm sure that Trump did it too. But, like, whenever Biden did the Build Back Better thing, people looked through it and they were like, wait a minute, there's all sorts of stuff in here. Like, there's
all sides do this.
Everybody does. Yeah. Everybody does it.
100%.
Everyone does.
And it needs to stop. I mean,
yeah, it's annoying.
It is. It's getting a little intense, but I do have faith that, you know, the more that we talk about these kinds of things, the more that we put it out there, you know, I think that we can come back from this. I think we're seeing just the pendulum swinging a little bit too far in both directions. But at some point, that pendulum slows down a little bit, and it will get back into the middle.
I hope so. We're trying to stop it a little bit. There was actually a Bridge USA event last night with the COO. It was with a coalition, I guess, of, like, bridge building organizations that were talking to a representative from Texas, actually. There's a bill going through Congress right now that if it gets passed, it will, like, provide a bunch of funding to, like, government funding to bridge building organizations like Bridge USA.
Nice.
That are trying to, like, so I think it's good. I mean, like, yeah, like, Congress has, like, a 29% approval rating. Like, the only thing lower is, like, colonoscopies or whatever. I saw the thing is, like, really funny. Like, the only thing that's lower is that. But I think it's cool. Like, there are some representatives in there that are seeing the polarization problem and that are really trying to stop it.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily know what the solution is, but I think it's got to start with the individual, you know, and I think that if you can find topics of discussion that aren't so intimate and personal, that aren't so intimidating or aggressive, that's a good place to start, you know, and just find common ground. We've almost defined ourselves by party lines, and we've defined, like, character and integrity by it, and I think that there's so much more to a person than just the way that they lean politically.
Yeah, and even within that, there's, like, you don't have to just because you believe red on one thing, people are like, oh, you must believe red on everything.
Yeah,
you know, or with blue, the same thing.
Yeah, I'm a believer of you know, I look at the full ticket, I look at the full argument, and really it all kind of comes full circle, you know, with me being the director of student conduct. Like, my world is all about living in the gray in that space.
Yeah.
It's all about being impartial, unbiased, listening to all sides. And when I make decisions, I base them off of the evidentiary model called the Preponderance of Evidence, which essentially just means what seems most likely to be true. You're using your gut. You're using logic to decide, okay, I'm being presented this information. I'm being presented this information. When you put these two things together, what seems most likely to be true?
Yeah.
And that that's why I love my job, is because that's how I function as a human being and outside of this space. Like, I listen to people and I just make decisions off of what seems most likely to be true or what feels the best, like what feels the best in my core, and I lean into that.
Those are like, I saw a clip of Bill Burr on YouTube yesterday.
He's funny.
Where he's brilliant.
Yeah.
He's a genius. But he was saying, I think he was on the Trigonometry show. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's
Not so
two
much.
comedians. That's a great show.
Okay.
It's with Konstantin Kisin. He's a guy that left the Soviet Union before it fell and came to the UK. Oh, wow. And grew up as and he's a stand-up comedian. He wrote a book.
Oh, he probably has some good content.
He wrote a book. It's fantastic.
Okay.
It's called An Immigrant's Love Letter to the West. I recommend it.
Oh.
It's a fantastic book. I thought it was really great.
Okay.
I thought it was really insightful. And then Francis Foster, I think, is the other guy. But Bill Burr was on their show, and he was like, yeah, I don't have answers to anything. That's why I don't lean political. He was like, I think it's so silly to think that you can just find an answer to these really complicated problems and just think that, like, you've solved it. He was like, that's why I don't lean political, because I don't know. That's kind of how I lead. Like, I don't have solutions to any of this stuff.
No, and I don't think either party is like, we've gotten away from the fact that I think my impression is that there were two parties of politics because neither are holistically correct.
Yeah.
It is the assimilation, it is the synergy between the two that should create the most holistic, impactful, beneficial outcome. But there is just none of that anymore.
No, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Well, the hope is that we can get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
I don't tend to like get super pessimistic about a lot of stuff because it's not really good for me. But I do tend to think that with the current way that we're going, my generation in particular, like, we have a big responsibility to do something about it. Like, the rate of success is probably ridiculously low. But I believe that we have to try anyway. Like, if we don't, I know that if I don't try, I'll regret that for the rest of my life.
For sure. Yeah, people just got to break out of the silo, get off social media, sit down and talk to people. And when you sit down and actually look into people's eyes and you hear their stories and you really see that they're a human being that are living a life, it makes everything a little bit more digestible, a little bit more approachable. And so I recommend it. Sometimes the solution is easy. Just put down the phone and sit down and talk to somebody.
Well, who's the guy on Channel 5 on YouTube?
Andrew Callahan?
Do you know that guy? Andrew
don't.
Callahan. This guy on YouTube. This guy is brilliant. He does like
Andrew Callahan?
Andrew Callahan. He does like if you just YouTube Channel 5. And he also had another channel called All Gas No Brakes. And he does like on the ground like journalism. He went to Ukraine and like interviewed people on the ground. He went to Portland in summer of 2020 whenever there was all this stuff. He went to like an NRA convention. He went to the Flat Earth convention.
Yeah.
And he just talks to people. And when you listen to his content, like, I've really gotten the impression that, like, if you go sit down and talk to people, the number of truly, like, bad people is not as high as people are led to believe that it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, I think it leans into that people just have a different persona when they're on the internet versus in person. And you see that, like, I mean, you play Call of Duty once online. You know what I mean? Like, people have different personas when they're online.
Try to play Overwatch 2.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen that?
What about now you have to have a phone subscription or something? Is that what you're talking about?
No, there's like 40,000 players in the queue ahead of you.
Oh, no.
My friend waited like 3 hours to play one game.
Seriously?
Because the queue was...
Wow.
I think the problem was we just completely jumped topics here, but just quickly.
We did, yeah.
Like, they stopped the first game. So Overwatch 1's gone. You can't play it anymore.
Correct.
It's completely gone.
Yeah.
And there was 2 days where they were preparing for the launch of Overwatch 2, and then they dropped Overwatch 2, and then everyone just jumped. And the servers weren't ready for it.
Of course not.
They got DDoS, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Every time it happens, I'm like, it's not funny when it happens to a person.
Yep.
When you like drop, like, isn't that what DDoSing is? Whenever you like release person's like personal information on social media.
Well,
Or is
that's
that a different
doxing.
term? That's doxing. Sorry, that's wrong thing. Yeah, that's not cool.
No,
But
not at all.
but DDoSing of video game servers is like part of it's kind of funny to me because like all these people were like dying to play Overwatch, and then they were just like, just cut.
Well, and I thought what you were referencing, because I just saw this on social media the other day, as I'm telling everybody to get off of social media. I'm on it myself, but apparently Overwatch 2 is making and this is a digression for sure, but apparently Overwatch is about to make a move where you can't play the game unless you have a phone, like an actual phone subscription. Like, I mean, like you have to have a phone with a provider. I don't know if it's a specific
like for your like Blizzard account or something
I guess.
like that.
And so if you don't have one, so if somebody, like for example, if you have Cricket Wireless and you're like it's prepaid kind of stuff, you cannot play Overwatch 2.
If they go through with that, that's wild.
Yeah, there's been a lot of uproar.
Crazy.
It is. Yeah, I don't know much about it. I just saw it yesterday, but yeah, it's
that game's gonna die anyway. Sorry, folks.
Yeah,
it's especially in the esports space, not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Which is really, we're jumping again. I was like, I'm on the esports production crew, like I was talking to Coach.
Oh, no way.
And he was like, the thing with Overwatch that was really exciting when it started was that they, like right now you have like FaZe Clan, you have like G2, and they're just like organizations with players.
Yeah.
But they're just kind of out, like they're just kind of in the air. Like you don't know where they are. Mm-hmm. The thing that Overwatch did was really brilliant was that they attached the teams to cities. So you had like the London Spitfire, you had like the you had like the Shanghai Dragons, I think, or something like that, so that you could be attached to a team. So like if you walked into a bar and they're playing Overwatch, like, oh, I don't know Overwatch, but it's like Atlanta versus Pittsburgh. Oh well, I'm a Pittsburgh guy, so I want Pittsburgh to win. So like that was really
brilliant.
Cool about it. But then they just didn't balance their game, and they killed it.
Yeah.
And all of the professional players just left. Which is really sad because like that was like that could have taken esports to the next level. Like if you could instead root for a city.
Yeah, no, that's a really brilliant.
It was brilliant,
approach.
and it could have completely revolutionized esports. But then Blizzard decided that they were gonna just not balance their game.
Gaming companies right now suck. Like a lot of them really do.
No lie, like I'm falling off of playing video games pretty much. I play some mobile games, but that's about it.
Yeah,
it's not
I still lean hard into retro games. Yeah, I kind of grew up on that. Yeah, I got the PlayStation 5, and I love new gen stuff too. Like
next gen stuff is like, I have all the respect for game developers. Like to make those, like they look beautiful. They look so good.
Yeah,
it's incredible. And you spent like the new Horizon game that came out.
Yeah, that was awesome.
My
it was
God.
That. Did you play it?
I didn't get through it.
Yeah,
because I started it and then I stopped playing, and then I every time I try to get back in, it's too overwhelming.
Well, yeah, because you have to learn the mechanics again and all the upgrade systems.
Like you're like a pinpoint, and like this is the whole map. It's like the map is huge, and it's like there's no fast travel, like that kind of thing. Well, there is, but it's like it's not very. You have to like the problem with the fast travel in that game is like you have to go to the spot first to unlock this. So it's like
exactly.
Well, that's kind of how it is most times, but it's just that game was beautiful. Like, and they spent like 10 years making that game.
I know.
It's great. I heard it was great. I didn't finish it though.
Yeah, and I know we're digressing, but like, it's
all over the place,
it seems this is what it's all
about. It's a lot of fun. I'm having fun with this.
But yeah, gaming companies, they're just changing their ethos to being more revenue driven. Like they're bringing in microtransactions and stuff like that.
Yeah,
they're leaning away from what gives video games the value that it does, which is an escape, which is a cathartic kind of experience, which is doing something that you can't normally do in your life. Like that's why I love open world games, RPGs, and stuff like that. When am I going to get to fight a dragon? Not now.
Not here.
Yeah, not
Certainly
in Pittsburgh,
not here.
Pennsylvania.
No, maybe in Australia.
Yeah, there might be some dragons down there. Who knows?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
but that's why I kind of like indie games now. Like
indie
you go on like
rock.
the Steam recommended pages, like little gems are like $5 for this game, and it's like those some of the best games I've played this year have been like $5 on the Steam store from some small. Like that's why I love indie games like that, because it's like what they used to be. It's like a little gem in the Steam workshop.
Oh yeah, Cuphead was two guys who made Cuphead. That brilliant game.
I never played it because I am prone to getting angry whenever I play video games.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So I haven't gotten far in that. Another really good indie one is like Shovel Knight is a great one.
Yeah, I think I heard of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some great ones out there
for sure.
But so I have a couple of questions here at the end that I like to ask.
Yeah.
All of our guests, because I think we get some good answers. In a position of leadership, what do you think it takes to be a good leader, and how can good leaders rise to the top in this current atmosphere whenever like bad actors seem so common.
I think that the key is to really listen to people. It's easy to talk, and I know I've been doing a lot of talking here. So
Well, that's what we do here.
That is what we do here. But I think being able to listen and actually like paying attention when you listen, and not like be looking at your watch and not be checking your phone and not be fidgeting, like actually giving people your time. The older that I get, the more precious time is to me. I know it's a little cliche. You can always make more money. You can't make back any time. And so I really, really value my time. So I think that like beyond listening, I think if you really want to be a good leader, and a leader can be like literally anything. You could be a leader in your family. You could be a leader at work. You could be a leader on a team. You could be a leader at a club. You could be a leader in your community. Give time to people, right? Because, like you can donate money to charities and stuff like that. I don't call that leading. I call that charity, right?
Right.
If you want to lead, give people your time, because that is a commodity that you can never get back. Like right now, I was looking forward to coming here, right? We're spending about 2 hours talking. That is 2 hours of my day that I'm giving to you. It's 2 hours of your day that you both are giving to me. Mad respect for that, right? Like that is why these kinds of conversations are so powerful and so organic and really needed, is because we're dedicating something that we can never, ever get back again. I mean, what's more powerful? What's more beautiful than that? So, if you really want to make an impact on people's lives, if you want to be a good leader and make a difference, give people something that literally can never be given back, and that is time.
That's really great. I hadn't really thought of it like that, but that's true. I also saw a thing on, we're bashing social media, but we're both on it.
Yeah.
Kind of how it is.
Yeah,
I saw a thing that was saying that like deep conversation is like the most like human thing that we have, because I've given you my thoughts.
Yeah.
And I can't take those back from you. And
that's also powerful.
The same thing is time. Yeah. Like if you give people your time and you give people like your true like deep feelings, like they're walking away with a part of you.
Yeah. No, that's a beautiful way to
back.
put it. And that also leans into why, to like loop it back to like some of the civil discourse and politics and stuff like that. That's why if you could sit down and actually like listen to somebody and hear what they have to say and then reciprocate and tell them how you feel, like that is very powerful. But right now it's just argument. Right now it's just bashing. Right now it is I'm right, you're wrong, I'm right, whatever it is.
So good leaders need to listen, and they need to give people a piece of them.
Yes.
To walk away.
Yeah, 100%.
Love it.
That's what I think.
I don't want to put you on the spot with this one.
No, I want to be on the spot.
Not that it's okay.
Yeah, put me on the spot.
What was a small act of kindness you were once shown that you'll never forget?
Oh, that is awesome. A small act of kindness?
Small, random, just like a thing that someone did for you that you'll never forget.
That is putting me on the spot, and that is making me rack the memory brain, or the memory here.
I wanted to give you a little warning there before I dropped that one.
When it comes to like a small act of kindness, I don't know. Like I can give a specific thing, and I could touch on it real quick, but it's not even really an act of kindness. I'll mention it here in a second, but I think that like in general, throughout my day. Actually, here, I'll give an example. There's a student here at Point Park that recently, this is a student that I've gotten close with, that I've met with, not in a conduct capacity or anything. I like to put that out there because, people think that the only time that I talk to somebody is if they're in trouble.
I've just walked into your office.
I know. You've never gotten in trouble. So, no, there's this student who I met last year in my first year of being the director of student conduct. And, they're not affiliated with Student Affairs or anything. They have a friend that is associated with Student Affairs. And so I kind of met them through this friend. And this is somebody who I think has gone through a lot, has faced a lot of adversity. And so I tend to lean into those kinds of people, and they, I feel, tend to lean into me because, again, I listen. I give people time. And so a couple weeks ago, this person reached out to me and just randomly sent me an email after we had just a random meeting. We weren't talking about anything of importance or value. At least I didn't think we were, right? And they sent me an email and just said basically like how much they appreciate it. And this is why I say that like give people your time. You never know how impactful it is. Like they were just thanking me for always being available, like when they're having like a mental health crisis or that they're having a bad day. that they can literally email me and it'll be 7:30 in the morning because I get here early. I get here like 6:30 in the morning. And I'll be like, yeah, come up and let's have some coffee and let's talk. And I just listen. I just sit there and listen. And they told me, like, hey, you'll never know the kind of impact that you've made on me and other people. And I just don't see that in me. Like, I don't see that in what I do. Like, I'm just authentic and I'm just organic in what I do. So that, I mean, like, just somebody, like, reminding me, like, that I have an impact, like, is, like, that is powerful. And I don't, like, I know that I do. Like, I know I have the potential to do that in my role, but it, you know, it's nice to hear it. Another more specific example, and this one, I don't know if this is quantified as like a small act of kindness, but back in before I was at the Point Park, I worked at the Art Institute, and I got really close with the vice president there, and he kind of was my mentor. And I remember I kept applying for management and leadership roles, and I kept not getting them. And the reason why, this guy sat me down in his office one day, and he told me, and that I know he meant this to try to, like, help me, but at first it impacted me in such a negative way, and now it is something that I think about every day. He told me that I had an inflated sense of self, and that's why they've never hired me. And at first I didn't even know what the hell that meant. Like, what do you mean I have an inflated sense of self? And so he explained it to me, and I looked into it, and basically he was right. Like, I was young, right? And I was going into interviews acting like, just because I care, just because I'm good at what I do, doesn't mean that anything should be handed to me. But I was walking into interviews and not being as formal as I should have, not being as professional as I should have, because I was close with these people. And I thought, hey, if I walk in, I'm all buddy-buddy, I'm like, yo, what's up? You know, that they would just be like, yo, let's give this dude the job. And I needed somebody to tell me this, like, as much as it hurt. And leaning back, like, I cried. I did. In his office, I cried. I left work early that day and cried because nobody has ever put me in my place like that. And so every day when I speak to anybody, when I do anything, I literally always say to myself, it's a conscious thing where I'm like, do not have an inflated sense of self. Are you having an inflated sense of self when you do this? Like, remember that you are just you, but there are millions of other people on this planet that are dealing with things. They're in their own head. Like, focus on other people, don't focus on you. And ever since that conversation, that small act of kindness, to me, it felt like it was like a drag at first, but it has changed me. It has changed the way that I look at people. It changes the way that I look at myself and how I communicate. And so, yeah, I guess that's 2 examples.
So for the first one, you had someone, I think with that first example, sometimes we're actually too close to what we're doing to see to see the impact. I think also, like, with our problems, sometimes, like, asking someone's perspective on a problem, they could just totally give you an answer that you hadn't even seen because you're too close to it in a way. Like, you were maybe too close to your day-to-day job to kind of see how many people you've impacted.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
And then with the second one, you know, someone that is, like, I would say that as an act of kindness, I guess, because they probably meant well whenever they were saying that.
Yeah, they weren't trying to be malicious. And here's the thing, like, that's one of the hardest conversations I think you can have with somebody is you care about somebody and you've become a mentor to them. Like, and that's what my situation, this guy was a mentor to me. And for the first time in our little friendship mentorship thing, like, he gave me cold, hard truth. Yeah. And it is very hard to go to somebody and tell them a deep-rooted flaw that they have.
Yeah, that's really hard.
And to tell them that and to encourage them to actively work on changing it. He could have just not told me and told me that I didn't get. He was the VP of the Art Institute at the time. I was a lonely little academic advisor there. Like, he didn't have to take the time and potentially, you know, destroy the work, like my work. Like, I didn't. Like, it only motivated me to do better and be better. But some people may have taken that as a sign, like, okay, well, screw this place. I'm going to stop trying.
Done.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he took the risk and he sat down and told me something that has literally 5-6 years later, it has absolutely changed my entire perspective on myself, on other people, how I interact. And it has made me just get out of my own head and love people more. And not focus as much on me.
We need that brutal honesty sometimes. It's really hard to be that person to say, hey,
it's so hard.
You could be better.
Yeah.
Like, to look into someone's eyes and tell them that, like, they're wasting talent or that they're just not good enough is really hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very hard.
And a lot of people would just not face that conversation. They would just move away from it, right? So, At the time, like I said, it was devastating. I was mad at him at first, and I never told him I was mad. But yeah, I was mad. I was like, because I was still in this inflated sense of self. I was a young, early 20-year-old kind of guy, just thinking, I graduated college. I am owed this. I did the 4 years. I got the degree. Where's the money? Where's the job title? That's not how it works.
No.
I needed a very, very crude awakening.
Yeah.
And I felt like I matured and grew up literally instantly. I was one person before that conversation, and I've been a different person since.
Yeah, that can hit you like a ton of bricks. And then that can pull you, again, being too close to it, that can pull you right away from yourself, and then you kind of do some self-evaluation.
Yep.
Yeah. What are you most afraid of?
Are you saying like an irrational kind of fear, or like more like philosophical, or like what do you mean? Because like if it's like irrational, I hate needles.
I do too.
Yeah, I mean I absolutely hate needles. Now I'm a guy that has piercings and stuff, which is kind of contradictory. They're one and done though. You know what I mean? Like it goes, the piercing goes in. I mean, I know it's still in my lip right now or whatever, but like more of like I don't have any tattoos. I love tattoos. I love the artwork and stuff. I can never get a tattoo. Yeah. Like I can get shots and stuff. Like I don't know. It's more like I guess like an IV. Like I hate IVs. Like the thought of like something penetrating my skin and remaining in there and putting fluids in there that are foreign to my body, just like for some reason, you know, there's that. More of a philosophical fear.
Yeah, I was thinking like what like unlived potential, or you know, unlived life, like something like that. Like what do you think? I guess like sort of like the what keeps you up at night type thing. Like what kind of fear is that for you?
Ever since I was a little kid, I've always struggled with like religion, I guess. Not because I don't believe necessarily, but I just have a tough time wrapping my mind around it.
Yeah.
And I'm somebody that kind of needs more tangible things to really buy in and to really believe. And to this day, like I really do still struggle with it. It doesn't affect me as it used to as a kid, I guess. But I guess I just remember as a kid, like, okay, it's not even like religion or death, because I was kind of leaning towards the death thing here. But the thing, this might surprise you, because we talked about this not too long ago. Time.
Yeah.
Time scares the living shit out of me. And the reason is because you can't get it back. Right. And that's why I think it's powerful for leaders to give their time, because it is something you truly can never get back. When we pass away, when we move on from this physical world that we're living in, regardless of what you believe in, and I encourage people to find their faith and believe in what you want to believe in, the thing that scares me is that no matter what people believe in, no matter what happens after we die, one thing continues, and that is time. Time will continue. No matter what you believe in, if nothing happens after we die, then that is it, and time just keeps going.
Yeah.
If there's like, you know, a heaven, if there is an eternal paradise, whatever it is that people believe in, yeah, maybe you go there and you experience those things or whatever it may be, but time continues. Life on earth continues. Like, to me, it is so sad, like when a loss of life occurs, it's like it impacts that family and like that community, but everybody just moves on, right? Time just moves on. And I don't know, to me that's scary. To me that's sad. To me that's just, it's a reality, and it's something that, you know, I've somewhat become desensitized to, because, you know, I've just perseverated on it so much that it doesn't affect me as much. But yeah, I guess not so much. Like, religion doesn't scare me. Death, you know, it's right now I'm at a point in my life where I don't think about it. You know, I'm young and healthy. But yeah, time scares the living crap out of me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think like something that I sort of get spooked by is the idea of not being me when I die, you know, like whatever consciousness is, like the idea of just not being anymore.
Yeah.
Like, what does that feel like? Like, lights go out and there's just like you said, like time, like things just carry on.
Yeah.
But just without you, which is why, you know, giving away bits of yourself and giving away your time so you can have an impact after you're gone, I think is so important. But yeah, that spooks me.
It does.
I
right
agree.
now, if the world disintegrated, right? Like if planet Earth and literally every solar system, because I believe that there's, not to get like into like, Tom DeLonge from Blink-182 style, like alien conversations or anything like that. I believe there's life outside of planet Earth, maybe this is a podcast for another day. But let's just say that every single solar system, every planetary element that exists out in whatever that is called space. Let's just say every bit of it is destroyed, disintegrated, and gone. There is still one thing that remains. Time.
Yeah.
Time will continue to move forward. Even if it moves forward with nothing happening, time still moves forward. And that, to me, it's just like, if time keeps moving, but I'm no longer here, then what am I doing? I won't know. I'm not doing anything. But that's scary to me. It's just like time will not stop for anybody. So, spin it into a positive way. You got to make every day important. You got to tell people that you love them. You've got to take opportunities to do fun things like this. You got to help people. You got to support people. You got to give your time, even though it's scary to lose time. You're going to lose it anyways. Give it to somebody else, so that they can benefit from it.
It's like the sign on the back of the Spaceballs ship. We break for nobody. That's what.
That's it.
That's what time is. It's in ludicrous mode, ludicrous speed the whole time, and it breaks for nobody.
That's so true. That is so true.
That's what it is. What advice do you have for young people? College freshmen, people that are trying to get their career started, that want to have a meaningful career. What advice do you have for them?
There's a bunch of advice that I could give. One would just be patience, to have some patience. I felt like that was part of the reason why I was told I had an inflated sense of self, because I felt that because I went to college, I got the degree, that I got a job, and I was in it for a year or two and being exceptional at it. And there's that inflated sense of self. But I was good at what I was doing, right?
Yeah.
Be patient. Have some patience. I also think that people need to do more things that they love and less things that they hate. And I think that if you really sit down and think about it, I bet you there's a lot of things that people do that they don't at least like. Maybe they don't hate it. But again, this is cyclical because time is unforgiving, and it continues on. So you should maximize that time the best that you can. You're gonna fail. You're gonna get knocked down. There's gonna be bad experiences. I was laid off from the Art Institute a few years back with 300 some people when they closed the doors, and that was the darkest point in my life. I had colleges and universities, as I was applying, that were actually replying to my applications and like basically laughing at me, saying, we're not going to hire somebody from the Art Institute. That place closed down because of bad practices, because of unethical ways of admissions and stuff. I actually had somebody from Duquesne University tell me, the best advice that we can give you, Angelo, is to find a different industry to be in, because no one's going to hire you coming from the Art Institute.
Wow.
And so I could have taken that advice and just said, okay, you know what? I have a passion for higher ed. It changed me, and I want to help give back and change other people. But hey, looks like it's not in my cards. I'm just going to, do a 9 to 5, clock in, clock out. And I know people do that and love that, and that's cool if you do. It's not for me. But I kept going. But my loans were in default at one point because I refused. Now, I was trying to make money on the side and everything, but I refused to give up on the dream. I gave up on one dream before with being in a band and being a rock star.
Right.
I was not going to give up on a real tangible dream, which was being in higher ed and helping people. And so it was a dark time. But I stayed the course, and I truly, if you would have told me 5-6 years ago that I'd be sitting at Point Park University in a podcast studio talking to 2 students at the university about all of this stuff, like you're asking me questions about being a leader, like, are you kidding me? Like, you're asking me things, like, to me, that's the most insane thought. And so for any student or any young individual out there listening, like, this may not make sense to you today, but in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, if you just stay the course, you're going to be shocked that you're there. I am shocked that I am anywhere where I'm at right now. Right here, right now, talking to you two, it's kind of shocking to me. So if you stay the course, you're going to do the things that you want, and you may just be as shocked as I am that you've accomplished it.
That's awesome. Angelo, thanks for sitting down with us today.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Let's do it again.
Let's absolutely. I mean, as you can tell, I mean, where are we at? We're about an hour 37 in.
Yeah,
right?
we're an hour and 40 minutes into this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I can talk, and I definitely appreciate it. And like I said, give your time to people, and you might be able to change the world. I appreciate you bringing me on.
I love it. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Thank you too.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Later.